Yes, we can get started.
Uh, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
I want to officially welcome you for this lesson. I remain Yandu Amos, the learning facilitator for physics. It is continuation of what we did look at last time. This online lessons, I think, started way back last week. I want to say that those who have just joined, maybe in the course of the week, you are most welcome. This is the first lesson I think we're having with you if you just joined us recently. We are running free online learning classes from P1 up to Senior 6. This lesson started, as I said, from last week. We are still moving on. I am the one going to take you for physics as we did start. And these lessons are being brought by Yaaka Digital Learning Network and Educare. There are a lot of services that you can just get when you subscribe for these online lessons from Yaaka and Educare. I would like to guide us here that you save us those whose videos are on. You can mute your video. You can put your video off. And then for the microphone, you will only unmute it when you are required to give an answer. But as it remains, if you want to give an answer or you want to give a response, you'll have to raise your hand. Something about the Yaaka services and their prices. If, as we can see on the slide there, we have online classes which run for one full year for 500,000 shillings only. And that 500,000, you'll be able to enjoy a lot of services. One of which is having teacher-student interaction, just like what we're having now. And again, just more than that is you'll be able to interact at any time with the teachers. This may be in form of class engagement, and then you are also able to access our courses, the subjects on the website. I think among you people here, there's just few those who have subscribed that are able to access our notes or the courses, the notes for the subjects and the courses from our website. For those who have not subscribed, please subscribe. You are missing some good services that would help you keep sorted out during such a moment. We have also marking and grading of assignments. We do have assignments which are on the site and quizzes. We do mark them and give marks. After marking, we grade them. This is done for one full year and it is only inclusive in that 500,000 Ghana cedis. You can also be able to access some of the contents that we have through downloads. You can download a single subject at a fee of 10,000 shillings. If that is not what you need, if you want to go beyond that, you can move on to download all the class lessons or all the subjects for that particular class. If it is the primary section, you'll be able to do that at a cost of only 30,000, all the subjects. Then If you want the one of secondary, you have to pay 50,000 and then you be able to download all those notes for that particular class. These services, as I said, they are offered by Yaaka alongside Educare, which is also, on the other hand, trying to give us quality learning notes and also even videos for learners from primary 1 up to senior 6. Our membership levels are very easy, affordable, and affordable. We have 2 days free access. You have 2 days free access for Educare, those resources on Educare. Then after that, you can be able to enroll for 20,000 per month. Like you're going to select 20,000 every month, you can be able to access information from there. Or else you go for the one which is on quarterly basis after a period of 3 months. Quarterly means a period of 3 months where you'll be able to pay 50,000, meaning if you have to pay monthly, it will go even 60, which is we have been able to deduct something there for you. So you'll be able to pay around 50. Then half a year, 6 months. Oh my goodness, this is very cheap. 70,000, and you expect that. If all this is not enough for you, you can go for the Ghana Cedis 100,000 annual subscription. You pay 100,000, subscribe for a whole year, be able to access information. If all this information I've given for you is not enough, you can be able to reach out on those 2 numbers to the Educare. We have 0754918047 or 0786 001244. Be able to access very high quality services. And if I can now, let's go to what we're supposed to be looking at today. Previously, or in our last lesson, we just looked at introduction to electrostatics. Introduction to electrostatics. Could someone remind us by what electrostatics is, by defining it? Those who are probably present, who's ready to give us what we mean by electrostatics, the understanding of what electrostatics is? Who's putting up their hand? Those who are there for the previous lesson, what is electrostatics? Peter, Emma.
Electrostatics is the study of charges at rest.
Good. Electrostatics is the study of charges at rest. We said from there we proceeded to find out more about the structure of an atom. And then we were able to describe the structure of atom. We realized the structure of atom consists of charged, the structure of atom consists of particles. One of these particles we said was an electron. The other one is a proton. Then the last one is neutron. As we were looking at those ones, we remembered that the 2 particles have charges. The 2 particles, they have charges. What is the charge of an electron? What is the charge of an electron? Hamira, what is the charge of an electron? Hope?
An electron has a negative charge.
What about proton?
Positive.
Good. An electron is negatively charged, proton is positively charged. Then, how do we produce these charges on a body? It is now the question of what has brought us to what we have there as electrification. Electrification is now all about how we are able to produce these charges. How does body, how can a body be able to produce positive charges? How can a body be able to produce negative charges? So this now leads us to the definition of electrification. I want Edgar to define for me this. Edgar, define for me what electrification is, as it is there on your screen.
Electrification is the process of producing electric charges which are either positive or negative.
It is the process of producing electric charges which are either positive or negative. So the charges that we're going to produce may either be positive or negative. So what are some of the methods? What are the methods of producing charges? What are some of the methods that you know that we can be able to use to produce charges from a body? We have
Induction.
Lenovo was saying induction. Good. Hope your hand is still up.
Charging by friction or rubbing.
Charging by friction or rubbing. Is that what you do? Good. Have someone mentioned already induction? Someone has already mentioned charging by friction or induction. Is there another method?
Conduction.
Conduction.
Charging by conduction.
Yes, charging by conduction. Now, yes, we have this. Charges can be produced from a body by 3 methods. These methods are 1, friction or rubbing. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes.
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 This method called friction is also sometimes referred to as rubbing, which means you have to rub 2 bodies. And it is the method that is only good for insulators. This method is only good for insulators and non-conductors. What did we say are insulators? Those who are present for the previous lesson. What are insulators? By putting up your hand. What are insulators? Nicholas.
These are materials which do not conduct electricity.
These are materials which do not conduct electricity. Why? Okay. Nicholas saying materials which do not conduct electricity. Good. Is there someone who has a very different view from that?
Insulators.
Insulators.
Insulators are substances in which electrons are not free to move and does not conduct heat and electricity easily.
Good. You have added in something, meaning that electrons in insulators that they are fixed and then they cannot move. As a result, they do not conduct electricity. So as a result, we now say the best method for charging this. The best method for charging this kind of substances is by friction or rubbing. We have conduction. Conduction is good for conductors themselves. So in conduction, we see we have free electrons that are able to move. So the free electrons, because they can be able to move, they easily move you can charge them by conduction. Then lastly, we have induction, which someone just talked about. This is also for the conductors. If we can flash back, because of the fact that the charges are either positive or they are negative. What are some of the, have you always got to hear about the laws of charges? Have you got to hear about laws of charges?
No.
What about laws of electrostatics?
No.
Yes. So we are going to look at now the laws of electrostatics. These laws of electrostatics are two. We have the two laws of electrostatics. The first one is when you have like charges. When you have like charges, who can give me an example of like charges in this case? Hope. An example of like charges? Masaba,
Positive and positive.
good. Positive and positive. Another?
Negative and negative.
Negative and negative. So I know you very well remember what you are told as far as poles of a magnet are concerned. Oftentimes students confuse concept of electrostatics with magnetism. In magnetism, we talk about poles. In electrostatics, we talk about charges. So when you bring two like poles together, you find they will be repelling each other. Positive charge to a positive charge, they will be repelling each other. Or when you bring a negative charge onto, or very close to negative charge, these will be repelling themselves. But when you have a case where trying to bring a positive charge and a negative charge, or else negative charge and a positive charge in that order, you see now that is the case where you are having what? Unlike charges. When you have unlike charges, these unlike charges, they are going to attract themselves. They'll attract themselves. So those two will now constitute for us what we call as the laws of electrostatics. In some cases, you'll be asked to state the laws of charges. So when they will say, state the laws of charges, it is the same thing as the laws of electrostatics. So that is what I wanted you briefly to move over. Now, we just talked of charging bodies by the three methods of friction, rubbing, which is one, or by conduction, or by induction. I want us to look at now charging bodies by friction. In charging bodies by friction, these are the procedures that actually you follow. These are the procedures that you actually follow when you're charging bodies by friction. They are very simple procedures. I think we shall be following them together. Can I ask Albert to read for us the first procedure when we are trying to produce charges out of two insulators by friction? Albert?
Two uncharged insulators are rubbed together.
The two uncharged insulators are rubbed together. I want to give an example. I don't know where many of you are now. You probably have even done this, even if you don't have done it now, if you don't have to even go and do it now. When you get a pen and you rub this on your hair, and later you get a small piece of paper you take this pen onto this piece of paper, what will happen? What will happen?
The paper will be attracted to the pen.
The paper gets attracted to the pen. Very good.
Yes.
And when you had not rubbed the pen on your hair, from your hair, was the paper being able to be attracted onto the pen? Initially, when you had not rubbed it, was it getting attracted to the pen?
No.
Very good. So which means now there, by rubbing, Albert, you mute your camera. By rubbing there, what you are actually doing is the two bodies getting charged. By rubbing, you are actually charging. You're charging. So there, what happens is, let's move to the next point. I will ask here. I'll ask Henry to come up to raise for us that second point. Henry?
Are transferred from electrons from one body to the other.
Electrons are transferred from one body to the other. You see that? So when you rub like this, you see, electrons get transferred. So as electrons get transferred, there's something that is going to happen here. One of the bodies will have excess electrons. See, this body will have excess electrons because it will have gained. Now, that is what we have been able to bring at that point where they're saying the body that will lose electrons. Just need to correct this. The body that will lose electrons becomes positively charged, and that which gains electrons becomes negatively charged. You see, when the body gains electrons, we said in a neutral atom, in fact, the electrically neutral atom, the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons, isn't it? That is what we said the other time, and we have to continue to believe in that the number of electrons in electrically neutral atom is equal to the number of protons. So when you now charge the body like that, when you now rub, you're charging the body, you're making it to either lose electrons or to gain electrons. Now, after rubbing the body like this, you see, this causes these electrons to be transferred from one body to the other. And then the body that loses electrons will now have more protons left in that atom. More protons will be left in that atom, leaving it with actually a positive charge, making it to have more positive charges. As a result, it becomes positively charged. And that body which gains electrons will now have more electrons. The electrons which it had plus the excess that it has gained. This now makes it to have more electrons. Because electrons are negatively charged, it makes this body to potentially become negative. And then this body will now be negatively charged. So we have examples of bodies. When you go to the statics, when you go to electrostatics, there's that series for each of these, for some of the substances, where when you try to rub it with the other insulators, when you rub it with the other, one becomes electropositive, the other one becomes electronegative. So the common examples that we do have right in there, we have when you charge or when you rub glass with silk, when you rub glass with silk, what happens is glass will become positively charged. Meanwhile, silk becomes negatively charged. So in these two, which one loses electrons and which one gains electrons? Suppose we are rubbing glass with silk.
Glass atoms lose electrons and silk they gain.
Very good. Glass atom loses electrons, and then silk atom gains the electrons which are lost from the glass. As a result, the glass will now have more protons than electrons in each atom. Then it becomes positively charged. Then silk will have more electrons in each atom than the protons. It becomes negatively charged. And then this is the same thing when you actually rub fur with ebonite. Ebonite is actually hard rubber. When you rub fur with ebonite, which is hard rubber, it will be the same case. Fur loses electrons, and these electrons are gained by ebonite. So that is what happens when you allow let us, when I'm trying to explain like this, we should be able to mute our cameras. I mean mute our microphones. Cellulose is the same thing when you rub it with polythene. So cellulose becomes positively charged, and then the polythene becomes negatively charged. And in all this, I want us to have those notes. You have to note that the two bodies which are charged by rubbing or even by friction always acquire equal but opposite charges. The two bodies which are rubbed by, which are charged by rubbing or friction acquire equal but opposite charges. And then all the insulators do not have electrons arranged in them the same way. The electrons which are in the insulators are not arranged in the same way. That is why in some of the insulators, the electrons are actually held fairly loose, and then in others, they are held fairly tight. So when you now take the example of glass and the silk, that's why we're saying in glass, electrons are held fairly loose than in silk. That's why the electrons in glass are easily lost. And as these electrons are lost from the glass, they are going to be the electron lost from glass will be taken care of by silk. The last thing that I want us to look at is the electrification by conduction. In electrification by conduction, we're looking at charges now body by bringing the bodies in contact. When one body is brought to touch the other, that is, there's already a contact. When they have touched each other, there's a contact. How do we charge bodies by that? In charging bodies by conduction, there are these precautions we need to take. The body which is conductor to be charged has to be supported on an insulating stand. This body has to be supported on an insulating stand, because if they're not supported on the insulating stand, you'll also find that some of the charges can easily be moved away, because the conductor that is going to be used for supporting it will also act as a way for the charges to escape. This conductor to be charged after it is supported on an insulating stand, a charge rod is brought in contact with the conductor. It may be positively charged or it may be not in contact with the conductor. Well, after this is done, you'll find due to that mutual, when I say due to the mutual repulsion between charges in the rod, because they are all negative or positive charges, those charges will also have some bit of repulsion. We call it a mutual repulsion between the charges, because we do understand that the charges which are of the same kind, they always have, or they always show repulsion. So due to that mutual repulsion between the charges in the rod, some of them will be actually transferred to the other conductor, which you had wanted to charge. So as these ones get transferred to the other conductor, then the conductor, on removing from the rod, will be found to have the charges which were from the rod. If the rod was having positive charges, conductor will be having also positive charges. If the rod was having negative charges, the conductor will also be having negative charges. That is simply because the charges get moved or transferred by mutual repulsion. Now we have an illustration of that explanation here. I think when you can see what happened, what is happening in the, who can tell me what is actually there in the first diagram where we're having the neutral board there? Who can tell me what has happened there? What is in there?
No charges.
No charges. How is the body supported? How is the conductor supported? How is the conductor supported?
It's supported by an insulating substance.
Okay. That is true. In the next step,
it's charged.
The charged rod is brought near the conductor, and then you're finding by mutual repulsion, the electrons are moving from what? The charged rod onto the body, which is to be charged, onto the conductor, which is to be charged. Then now, eventually, the last step is the diagram is where the charged rod has been removed, and then it is the negatively charged rod that has been removed, and then you now see that the body there has now been negatively charged. So that is how you can be able to charge body by conduction. We have looked at two, charging a body by conduction. Conduction one is the body to be charged is supported on any instant. Then a charged rod is brought in contact with the body to be charged. Then by mutual repulsion, charges from the charged rod will get transferred onto the body to be charged. And then on removing the charged rod, the body becomes charged by conduction. Yes. Now, as we are trying to describe here, we had so many descriptions, but my description was that when we are charging a conductor by conduction, it did not specify whether it is to be charged positively or negatively. I was cutting across. Now, the task that you're going to do is you're going to describe with aid of a diagram. With the aid of a diagram, describe how a conductor can be charged positively by conduction. That is the first assignment. I think our submission is going to be on the workshop. Secondly, we're supposed to explain what happens when glass is rubbed with fur. Supposed to explain what happens when glass is rubbed with fur. So questions that you're going to attempt. I would encourage that actually we discuss conversation as we have a chat in our WhatsApp group there, let us have some discipline. Let us only discuss about academic issues where you feel there's something you want to interact with some other person. You can have a private chat. What you are sharing in our WhatsApp group there should be that which is actually given by maybe the teacher or else which may benefit the group academically. With all that I've said, we shall have to end here.
But teacher, you didn't give us the explanation of conduction of friction.
Beg your pardon? Aisha, I beg your pardon.
I didn't understand the explanation of conduction of friction. Electrification by conduction with friction.
By friction.
Yes.
I'll be able to give the notes here. I'm going to give you it on that WhatsApp group. You can be able to follow it from there for the part that you basically couldn't get. But by the charging in friction, the steps that you will follow are basically three. The first step is when you rub the two bodies. In fact, the first step is rubbing the two bodies.
Okay.
When rub the two bodies, this rubbing the two bodies will cause electrons to be transferred from one body to another. As that takes place, you find the body which loses electrons will become positively charged because it has excess electrons, excess protons left in each nucleus. Meanwhile, the body that is going to gain the electrons lost by the other will have excess electrons. As a result, in the atom, it will have now more electrons than protons. As a result, it becomes negatively charged. So you can now explain that in regards to when a glass is rubbed with. So I'm going to be able to give for you that assignment on the WhatsApp.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, please.
Are we supposed to cram that glass is positively charged and silk is negatively charged?
I beg your pardon?
Are we supposed to cram that glass is positive? A glass acquires a positive charge and silk acquires a negative charge, or?
It is not all about cram work. See, here, it is not cram work, but it is a fact. The fact is glass with the silk. Silk, in silk, the electrons are a little bit tightly held compared to that one in the glass. You get it? In silk, the electrons are a little bit tightly held compared to that in glass. In a glass, they are loosely held. So when you rub them like this, the electrons easily get transferred or they're easily lost from the orbit of the atom of glass than that one from the silk. As a result, the electrons that are lost from this one of glass are going to be gained by that in silk. But it's all about trying to organize what I put there in relation to now silk and glass. It was a general one that I'd given there. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hamira.
Teacher, we're going to send the work on your email when it's done.
You send when it is done.
Okay.
But I think our WhatsApp is usually active during the day, and then you can be able to do it during the day. If you cannot be able to do it now,
Okay.
you can be able to do it later on, even tomorrow during the day.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you for listening and the active participation. Have a very good day, evening.